Would you help us to understand what the Alliance is and what you guys are doing? Because I can already assure you it's amazing what you do, but it might be good for our audience
Yeah,
to
it's
get to know.
amazing. It's actually a truly amazing organization. So it's the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance. It actually started in 1992, coming out of the Rio conference,
Yeah.
when then Prince, now King Charles III, called together the 11 largest hotel companies together to start talking about sustainability. And in 1992, that would have been quite fringe, quite frankly, and it would have been a early conversation about what ecotourism and sustainability was all about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really at the heart of business at the time,
Oh,
but it was and it evolved. And that same 11 to 12 companies stayed together for 30 years.
wow.
And in 2021, we became a global charity. So we
Okay.
transitioned from this, organization called the International Tourism Partnership
Mhm.
to now the World Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, because we really needed to have a much larger voice, bring more players to the table, and really take a charitable stance in its contribution to the industry. And so it really evolved that way.
So that means for not only you met King Charles, which apparently probably is
Well,
a
within the first, I
achievement.
have to say, I had to pinch myself a few times. I did. Yes. And what I've really been so impressed is his commitment
Yeah.
to this cause. Wow, forever. Like this is not something that's just on late in his agenda.
Hmm.
This is something he has lived and practiced and inspired his entire life.
Yeah, it's authentic, I have to
And
say.
he truly inspired this industry to stay together, to stay focused, really start talking about it. And then coming out of the pandemic, it really took shape. The organization really started to say, okay, as an industry, we need to start looking at this a lot more closely, take it much more advanced. There was some great work in those 30 years. We established some key tools and resources that the industry still uses today in a big way.
Hmm.
But since the pandemic, Kit, we came out of it, we knew we had to be much more contributory. And as an organization, so we are a global charity that supports industry's transition and what we call net positive hospitality. And I'll certainly talk a lot about what that means in a few minutes. But
Hmm.
it's our true North Star for an industry to go above and beyond and actually talk, when we're in a sea of other economic industries.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to cut through the noise, because quite frankly, there's a lot of people outside our industry and some within it that actually don't think we as an industry are taking sustainability seriously enough.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so by shooting to a true North Star of net positive, that's something other sectors aren't talking. They're still talking sustainability and net zero and those kind of things. We want to stand out. We cut through it. And this is where the North Star of net positive hospitality, which is ultimately giving back to the destination for which we have the privilege to operate within,
Mm-hmm.
then we take out. That's fundamental. It's to the destination we have the privilege to operate in. And that's when you start to change the dynamic, because it is about the people, the community that we have this opportunity to serve. And that's a change in paradigm.
I mean, we saw after COVID, the biggest game changer was our guest started to want that. And before, it's always intrinsic. If you want it, that's great. It's good for us. If we tap our shoulder and say, yeah, good, let's do something. But if it's a requirement by your customers or your clients, then the whole thing gets
really changes
pace.
when you start, because obviously, and what came out of the pandemic, the customer, absolutely, particularly the business traveler, because they have to report back to head office.
Yeah.
And they put on their disclosure statement, how sustainable was the hotel or property you stayed at or you had your convention at. These are big decision-making points. But I'd say beyond that, the investor is expecting that. 70% of those leading investors in the world, sustainability is on the agenda for them to make their decisions on where they park their dollars. Regulators, as we know, everything from the EU to UK government to
national governments,
to even the United States, even with election changes, it still has an environmental component and an expectation that industry is going to be doing the right thing. But I'd say most importantly, we have members in our alliance. And so one of the things I have to tell you, we grew 400% since we became a global charity and identified net positive as our North Star. That was a significant cutting through the noise opportunity to get the industry to take notice, understand what it's about, and let's move forward together. And so if we have members of those members, we have a couple of them that are opening a new, not just one, 2 new hotels a day, every single day for the next 3 years. With that in mind, I mean, no matter where they are in the world, who's going to work in these things? So it's important that the companies have a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And sustainability is one of those key elements that attracts the workforce of the future.
Yes.
And retains them.
100%.
And those employees see how the sausage is made. And if those companies are just talking and actually aren't delivering in the hotel that is we're a sustainable hotel, they'll go across the street to the other hotel that is doing it right. Yeah. So this is where sustainability is really playing a big role.
And that means that your day is filled with all the CEOs of the big companies. So that's really talking the big wheels, the big numbers.
The CEOs are very engaged, but so are obviously the senior vice presidents, particularly the chief sustainability officers in the companies. But it's every department in the major leading companies.
Part.
It's the engineering side, the human
people
resources.
Teams. Yes,
absolutely. So you've got a very holistic group of people that are engaged within the alliance, depending on what the project we take on.
I mean, the word sustainability is probably sometimes a bit narrowed down on only environmental topics, but the word itself has so much more facets and shades and importances that there is something for everybody in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. And rest assured, there's more from where that came from. So make sure to follow all our social media channels to never miss an update on our end.